I'm Jeremiah Soseda from EnSoft Corp, and I'm here today to give you a short and to the point presentation about team development of Simulink models with IBM ClearCase and EnSoft SimMerge. Today, team development of software and systems is done using revision control and software configuration management. Revision control means keeping copies of the same artifact over time. Software configuration management means keeping track of different flavors of a system. Revision control and software configuration management are called SCM for short. IBM ClearCase is a popular enterprise SCM, or software configuration management. It supports large-scale development very well. IBM ClearCase provides a great foundation, but if you're working with Simulink files, it's not enough by itself. You need to use IBM ClearQuest and EnSoft SimMerge together as a system. ClearCase provides the base SCM. ClearQuest allows you to track activities instead of files, and SimMerge provides a link to Simulink. Let's go over some concepts. The first concept I'd like to introduce is stream of development. Now, everybody already does development on a stream. Here we just want to formalize the term. A stream of development represents the activities you make to a project over time to implement a particular functionality. For example, here we see the changes that we made to go from an empty project to then implementing different modules and changing their functionality as the project progresses. Version control simply means saving snapshots of your stream over time. The changes between each version are called a change set. That's another concept we'll talk about later. A change set represents a particular activity during your development. For example, Delta 5 represents adding advanced functionality to Module 3. Now, if you're working on a team, each person will have their own stream of development, and change sets will move between them. Here we have Jen and Dan. Suppose Jen did the initial skeleton model, and then Dan went ahead and just applied her change set to his stream of development. So now he has the skeleton model that Jen had. Okay. Jen will continue developing, adding other features to the model. And Dan is also working on his own. For example, D1 here represents the activity of Dan adding Module A. Okay. Now Jen can just import that, and now she also has an implementation of Module A. Okay. Now later Dan found some bug in his Module A and he fixed it. Jen can simply import that change set and also have the bug fix. And of course they can go on making other changes to their particular development workspaces. So at any point in time, the content of each stream is the sum of all of the changes applied to it. Now, when you apply a team member's change set, you may need to merge something. For example, here, when Jen took D1 from Dan, some of the changes in J2 may have been to the same part of the system as what Dan was working on. In that case, you would need a merge tool that's aware of Simulink models such as SimMerge in order to merge the changes. There can also be dependencies between the change sets. For example, in order to add D2 into your stream of development, you already have to have D1 since D2 is affixed to something implemented in D1. For larger projects, streams can be organized into hierarchies. For example, here we see that Jen and Dan are working on Module 1 and Chris and Amy are working on Module 2. Okay. When Jen is done with a particular change set, which means some activity she did like implementing a new feature or fixing a bug, she can promote that change set to a parent stream, and then when Dan is ready, he can update from that parent stream. So these hierarchies help us organize how different changes or activities that developers do move between different workspaces and different projects. Now from now on we're going to visualize streams as hierarchies, and we're just going to focus on the change sets that are relevant to a particular example. So our example here is a controller that has 3 different versions from vehicles deployed in 3 different geographical areas: North America, Europe, and Asia. Now you can see here that the main development is done on the North American version of the controller. And then that controller is taken by a Europe team and an Asia team and adjusted to the requirements for that region. Now that doesn't mean that only the people sitting in North America working on North America model. You can actually see here Peter, who's in Germany, actually has a stream for the development of the European version of the model, and for his contribution to the North American model. Min, who is in China, also has two streams, one for the Asia version of the model and one for the North American version of the model. Okay. So now let's see how a chain set travels through this hierarchy of streams. So let's say Jen implemented a great new feature. Once she's done with it, she's satisfied that it meets the requirements and it passes whatever test she has. She promotes it to Module 1. At that point, Peter, if he wanted, could import it into his workspace. Okay? But also somebody who's in charge of releasing changes from Module 1 for quality and testing can choose to promote that to the Q&A stream. Their testing team can run it through its paces, and once they decide that in fact J1 meets the requirements and passes all of the tests, they can promote that change set to the North American stable stream. Now then Peter is going to periodically check what change sets are in North American stable that I haven't yet put into the European stable. Okay, so he'll see Jen's change J1 and he'll say, well, but the requirements need this to be a little different. And so he'll make a new change set called P1, which is basically dependent on J1. And so J1 and P1 will follow a similar path. They'll be moved up to the project that Peter and Ines are working on. Eventually it'll go to a Q&A team, and eventually it can become part of the current stable version of the European controller. A similar process will happen with the Asian controller when Wei pulls in whatever changes are in the North American stable. Okay. Now the project does move on over time, and we had a release one of the model. Maybe this is handed out to other teams that need to do system testing, or for whatever purpose you have some milestone in your project. Now the new streams in gray represent a maintenance hierarchy. So the top ones, which you see European R1, Asia R1, and North America R1, those are called snapshots. They represent the stream of development frozen in time at the point of release. Okay? And then under them are streams that are used to make any changes to that version isolated from the main development. So now suppose somebody was using the Asia Release 1 and they found a bug and they reported it to Min. So Min went ahead and made a fix for that bug. It went to the Q&A team and it became part of this Asian maintenance stream, which it basically is collecting any bug fixes or other type of maintenance changes done on that release. Now Jen notices that, hey, Min in the Chinese team has done some has fixed a bug. I should check if the bug is also in the North American model, and she finds that that is in fact the case. So she implements the change. She adjusts the fix for the North American requirements, and that moves up through Q&A and becomes part of the North American maintenance. A similar process would happen with the European model. Okay, and then of course they notice that this bug actually exists in the mainstream development, and then they can pull in that change set and apply it to their workspaces. And so now as time goes on, when there's enough maintenance changes, then you would do a release R1.1 and you would have a similar structure. So this is our example, and I just like to note a few things. We call this software configuration management. And you can see here that there's many configurations being managed at the same time. So the current North American stable that people are working on, all the maintenance releases, all the changes that are geographically different, and whatever particular setups each of the developers has on their workspaces. So I hope you're able to follow along through this short presentation. The wonderful thing about video is that you can watch it as many times as you like. This short presentation is actually based on a paper presented at SA World Congress 2010 titled Model Revision Control and Configuration Management of Simulink Models. And the paper number that you can look up on the SA website is 2010-01-0940. Again, I'm Jeremiah Sauceda from EnSoft Corp. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. You can reach me at pi@ensoftcorp.com. Have a wonderful day.